So behold, the first Oldsmobile we've ever featured on Big Muscle. This is a 1965 Cutlass F-85, and it belongs to a man who you might not know by name, but I can almost guarantee you know his work. The owner of this car, his name is Robert McGaffin, and he shoots some of the nicest automotive pictures you've ever seen. Popular Hot Rodding, Camaro Performer, and a whole bunch of other magazines that you see on store shelves. Now, Robert's job is to go out and make other people's cars look nice. Our job is to go out and make other people's cars look nice. So we decided to give this car a day in the spotlight, drive it, have fun with it, and well, make it perform.
My name is Mike Mustang. Each week I travel the country with the goal of showcasing the best and baddest muscle cars and hot rods around. Every car has a past and every owner a story. Welcome to the world of Big Muscle.
This car evolved from my working with Popular Hot Rodding. I bought the car as a divorce present to myself. Soon after that, it was pretty much a stock running car, and Popular Hot Rodding contacted me and wanted to see if I was able to use the car for some tech stories that they wanted to try to show off what we could do with an F-85 or this Cutlass. We wanted to try to show people that you didn't have to spend a lot of money and try something different with a different car and still get the same performance. I like the A-bodies. I'm a big GM A-body fan. I have two small kids, and I needed something that not only I wanted to play with on the track and autocross, but I could also take my kids to ice cream.
So Robert built this car as kind of a, a combo pro tourer / nice driver. And that's really what it is. I mean, what I think is one of the coolest parts though, and I'll say this right in the beginning, it doesn't have an LS motor. It's got a 461 cubic inch Olds big block in it that has been massaged with things like Edelbrock heads, Holley intake, Holley carburetor, and it works really, really well. It's a pretty trick ride because the Oldsmobile, the F-85 Cutlass, is not a car that's traditionally seen. It generally gets overshadowed by things like the Buick Skylark or the Chevelles from, 66, 67. The body style just never really caught on. I mean, it's got kind of this barn door grille with these 4 lights on it. And in stock trim, you look at it and you go, that's a nice car, but I don't know. Like for me personally, I've never been a massive fan. However, now that I've seen one that's done in the proper way, I really, really like it. And I start to appreciate it much, much more. Power-wise, this thing makes gobs and gobs of power. It's 525 horsepower and 540 pound-feet of torque. So, I mean, you roll into it and the thing will pull all day long. But the best part is the handling. You throw it into a corner and the car just sticks. Tire-wise, we're talking BFG Rivals, which is the new tire from BFG. I've heard it's not great in the rain, but from what I can tell in the dry, it's working really, really well right now. The shocks are from a company called Viking, and these shocks, they're called Viking Berserker shocks, and they're actually computer controlled. There's a module in the trunk that actually monitors the pressure of the shocks as the car is going over bumps and adjusts it to the ride quality.
I have plans for it. I'd like to keep evolving the car. My original plan was to do a pro touring car. I used to watch Trans Am racing in the 70s, and I really liked that whole look, and I thought that would translate really well to the street. And once I saw products that Mark Stilo was building, I knew that that was the way I wanted to go. And I really liked the A-bodies. My first driving experience in a 66 Chevelle was through Ride Tech. And knowing how I could throw that big of a car around in such a small course, it just really turned me on more to the A-body, so I just started seeking one out.
handles.
It handles better going harder.
It does. It really does. This is not a slow speed car, man. This car wants to be pushed. And I feel like the harder you push it, the better it gets. Honestly, by today's standards, I would kind of compare this to a Mustang, you know, because you still have a little bit of body roll in here, and you have the weight. And that's the new thing. Like a new Mustang GT, not the 15, the 13 and 14s, they've got weight behind them. And so that's really, really difficult to mask unless you're a GTR, right? Yeah. So you throw the car into a corner, and you can kind of feel that mass wanting to move. You know, you'll go over some of these bumps and the front end will come up, and a lot of times they'll pogo. This one doesn't. You'll get a little rise, and then it'll immediately kind of level out. And that's thanks to those Viking shocks. So we talked about the engine. It makes big power, big torque. Getting that power to the ground is a TKO 600 tranny with 373 gears in the back of a strange rear end. It's built to take punishment, and according to Robert, it does. I mean, the car runs really good. It's really stout. The way the suspension is set up, I mean, you got to remember this is a big car, and it's really compliant. You know, weight-wise, he said this thing was around 3,600 pounds, which for a car this size really isn't that bad. I mean, I look at my Charger, which is also an intermediate, and that weighs around 3,680, 3,690 around there, so they're pretty comparable. And, you know, truth be told, it feels about the same, except I think his car's got a much better suspension than my car.
This car started out as pretty much a stock 330 two-speed power glide car. It had the 68 to 70 wheels on it, and we started doing the process of changing it over. Detroit Speed came out with the new A-body suspension, and we wanted to showcase that. Bear Brakes came out with the new, the new T4s and the SS4s, which we wanted to really show them. The car had a gray roof, gray metallic paint on the roof, and we did a story showcasing the original rally stripe that you could have gotten from the dealership back in 1965. Right before we got an Optima invite last year, my friends over at Hot Rod Chassis and Cycle wanted to help go through the car, make sure we took care of some items. We decided we were going to lighten up the front, so we worked with VFN and they made bumpers for the car, which are now available. I would say I really liked the Ray Veslis car that they had built, the GTO, and I really liked the whole 60s Trans Am vibe that they had started with. So I kind of wanted to bring some of that into my car, which is the reason for the amber lights and taking some of the weight out of the car and redoing the dash and making it more race inspired. But it's still everything's right there, you can read it, and it's a very user-friendly car.
From an interior standpoint, this thing is pretty basic. You got to remember that it's not a real 442, it's a 442 clone. And in 65, the 442 was more of an appearance package than a performance package. So the inside is very, very basic. Very flat gauge panel. The gauges are lined up just, in plain sight, which is very, very nice. But there's not a lot of fluff here. A lot of guys take the Pro Touring cars to a level where they're not fun to drive. You're constantly monitoring gauges. You're constantly wondering, is this going to fail? Is that going to fail? This car is pretty well sorted out. And while everything can get a little better, I have to say he's done a pretty good job with this. It does rub a little bit though. The front end's got to come up maybe about an inch. Got to get that rub fixed. Got to get that rub fixed.
Every car has teething moments, and every car has a debugging process, and it's been taking a long time. The car is working really well. I'm very happy with it. There's always going to be tweaking you're going to do, and we'll probably still continue to tweak on it. Looking at other people's projects and always thinking that would be really cool to have one day. And this is something that I've been wanting for over 30 years, and I finally got it. So it's been a really cool ride so far.
Every car enthusiast out there has an idea of what their perfect automobile is. For some, it's an old school hot rod. For others, it's a 10-second strip machine. I think that for the majority of us though, what we really want is something that's reliable, makes us smile, and gives us just enough problems so that we're always tinkering and improving, but never hating on or losing interest. Robert's car is the perfect example of that, and while it didn't come to him easy, what he's achieved so far fits the bill pretty damn well.
It's gonna be a great video. This video is about eating hot dogs on the side of the road.